What's up, everyone? It's Lee here, the rental guy, and today we're going to talk about what I know about staffing. Let's get into it. So staffing's been interesting. Year one, it was just me driving around in my minivan, setting things up alone by myself. Year two was me and a part-time helper helping me set up pole tents. Of course, there was pickups going along the whole way, right? I've got a whole video about how you don't need staff when you start because customers can come pick up things and then you can really reinvest that money into inventory. But I'm off on a tangent, so I've got that video right there. And then the year after that, it's just like pull the trigger, get someone full-time and a bunch of part-timers. Before last year, I just had part-time people and it was kind of hard. Sometimes I get screwed over. People will call in sick. And the way that you alleviate this is by having full-time staff members. If you can offer staff members full-time, well, then they owe you all of their dedication because you are their main source of dinero, right? They want the ducats, and so they'll be faithful to you. Whether they're hard workers or not is to be determined, but full-time staff will pay for themselves. So at least have one full-time guy, or depending on whatever size you are, right? So full-time staff is important. It's really hard to pull that trigger to hire someone full-time for your very first. But if you have enough inventory, trust me, there will be enough work that you'll need that full-time person. So if you're contemplating whether making the leap in getting a full-time employee on top of all those part-times, just do it, or else you're gonna burn yourself out. And once burnout sets in, you're done. If you want to learn more about burnout, then click that video right there, because burnout's a real thing too. Just kidding, this video is about how burnout's not real because you can avoid burnout.
Hey Lee, where do you get your staff members?
Excellent question. I hire my staff members from classifieds. I put an ad out on classifieds and then I find people. And if they suck, then I just don't call them again. If they're good, then I get them working for me.
How do you know how much to pay them?
At the start of the season, I put an ad out there for $20 an hour. Usually when you put the price amount inside the ad, that gets you some replies.
Hey Lee, how do you know that you're hiring the right person?
Well, in that ad, you have to make sure that they have their license. You have to make sure that they have a resume and make a couple rules so that it's a little bit harder for them to apply. Like must submit resumes to this email address only, no phone calls, right? And if they start phoning or doing things that aren't by your rules, that's an instant red flag. Every time that I've had someone who broke those rules, they weren't paying attention and they ended up being not good picks. And you're gonna find some liars. People are gonna lie to you. You demand that you have a license, you're gonna find out that they don't have a license. They say that they can do the job and they did this and that, and they aren't gonna work out. So be prepared for that. So in that case, I overhire.
Hey Lee, what if you have a big tent job coming up and you're worried about staff members getting sick because they call in sick all the time?
In that case, I overhire. Here in Canada, there's something called Labor Ready, and what you do is they're a labor hiring service, right? So you can find multiple staff members that could be valuable for the summer, or they just might be a waste of time. But you don't have to call them again. It's Labor Ready that takes care of it. So if I know that I have a big tent job coming up, well, I could hire multiple Labor Ready guys, and then that will also be a vetting process just to make sure that I can sift through it. I'll find the good ones from the bad ones, and then I'll be like, hey, come on aboard. And it's a fantastic way to have people, work for the job. You don't have to say that you're doing that, but for instance, I've got a tent job coming up in June that's massive, and if they book, is going to require so much staff because it's take down in a day and switch it over. There's a lot of planning that's involved in it. So I'm going to need lots of staff members, and when I have those staff members from Labor Ready coming in, I'll be able to see who takes direction quickly, who the hard workers are, and then I call them again and keep them on for the remainder of the summer. And then the bad ones, it's just cut them off right there. So it's a fantastic way, Labor Ready. So check in your city if you've got some sort of Labor Ready or something like that.
Hey Lee, what do you do when staff are slacking off? What do you do?
This is a tricky one. When staff is slacking off, you have to make sure to identify if it's their fault or if it's actually your fault for the reason that they're slacking. I know that you can have more productive staff if you have things ready for them to do. not trying to think up things for them to do in the midterm. While you're thinking it up, they're going to be sitting there playing on their phones, and you're going to get mad at them because they're playing on their phones, but then they're going to be like, what am I supposed to do? This guy doesn't even know what we're supposed to be doing in between, like a tent install and blah, 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 blah. You, as the employer, have a big job as well. You have to be ready for them. You have to make all the processes available for them. Make sure you have their schedules done early so that they can plan things and take time off accordingly. Because if you don't have the schedule ready 2 weeks in advance and you're doing schedule last minute, well, they're magically going to come up sick for something that they had already planned, right? And then you're struggling to find guys. But if you give them their schedules well in advance, they can plan around it, let you know, hey, I can't be here at that time, and then you can make other plans to hire other staff members, then there's no animosity there, right? The more organized you are, the more productive your staff can be. So hiring high school kids is great because they work, it's cheap labor, they're strong, but they're unreliable, and when school comes around, their agenda shifts and they don't care about you anymore. For me, my season starts at about May. Late May is when the tents start coming in and when I need people, and then it ends around October. It just goes, but school goes back in September. So that's September, the late September and into October, those last few weeks, if you have big tent gigs and you need lots of people, well, you're going to have your staff members drop off and you're going to be overworked. So you have to keep that in mind and plan ahead that if you have students that are working for you, they're going to drop off before your season's over and you'll be screwed. So hopefully you're strong like ox and be able to lift those tents up by yourself. Some of my favorite staff members aren't staff members at all. They're tools, because you can utilize less staff members if you have tools. This is my all-star employee right here. I know they say you're not supposed to mix work and pleasure, but I got something romantic going on with this girl right here. Utilize less staff members if you have tools, or else you can have tools that will keep your staff members from burning out really quick. So one tool that I have is forklift. It's absolutely fantastic because I don't need two guys to lift things up and put them down from high places. The forklift can do that. So you can do the job of two people with one person in a fraction of the time with the forklift. Another great tool is stilts. See these guys right here? They're drywall stilts. I wear them on my legs so that I can easily install tent walls and lights and blah, 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 blah. You get it. I love stilts because, stilts, they get you up high because marquee tents stand about 8 feet tall, like right where the eave is at. And so there's cross wires in the middle of them. And when you're wearing the stilts, then you can easily reach, but then you can also use it to make sure that you don't fall. So when you're hanging lights across those cross wires, it's a great thing. And then if you have staff that like to play on their phone, they won't be able to play on their phone because you can't play on your phone when you're on the stilts. It's impossible. I had a guy last year just loved his phone, but as soon as I put him on the stilts, he'd never use his phone. So he was the stilts guy from now on. So, if you need to keep one of your lazy staff members busy, we'll make them the stilts guy. They're on lights, they're on walls, everything up high while the other guys are doing things down low, the stakes, the buckles down low. You're catching what I'm throwing, right? All right, here's another weird one. Having a good staff member that you don't want to wring their neck is maybe as simple as instilling a value in them, like double count your stuff. I know that I didn't properly train staff last year and I didn't make them double count stuff. And oftentimes we would get to an event and things wouldn't properly be counted and I'd have to drive back over a pole to install a tent or, something little along those lines. And, it just, you reminded them, you're like, did you double count? And they're like, yeah, I double counted. And they didn't double count. And then you have to drive back and do this stuff and you're wasting time. And then you grow to resent the employees. So, if you instill, must have things like double counts, like two people have to confirm the the count on the polls before things can go out, and this is a must do, well then you won't have to bleed that extra money having someone drive back yourself, or you getting mad at your employees and then your employees get mad back at you, and it's a vicious cycle that goes back and forth. So the more organized that you are, the more organized they can be, the better job they're going to do, the more you like them, the more you want to pay them because they're doing a great job, the more they want to work for you because you're paying them more, and at the end of the day, everyone wins. Ding! Blah, blah, blah. They'll ask, what's your Wi-Fi code? When you first hire your staff, they're going to ask, hey, what's your Wi-Fi code? And you're like, oh yeah, new staff member, whatever Wi-Fi code is this. Wrong. Do not give them the Wi-Fi code. The Wi-Fi code is not for the staff members. If they're high school kids, then they can't hook up their phones to the internet and they can't play on their phones. Just nip it in the butt before it even gets to be a thing, because they are going to live on their phones, and the phones are the devil. Don't even give them the chance to do that, right? I've got my program is called Bookable, and there's an app for it, and they use that as an excuse to play on their phones. They're like, oh, I'm just using the app to ring things in. It's like, no way. So now I have computers everywhere so that they don't use their phones to ring everything out. They use the computer at the front door. So I know that they're not playing around trying to make excuses. If you nip it in the ass beforehand, then they won't have an excuse. And there's no reason that they need to be playing on their phones, because they're gonna play on their phones. Anyways, thanks for watching my little ramble and what I've realized about staffing. I hope you like this video. I'm going to re-release this video at the end of the season, or probably every year, because my thoughts might change on matters, because as you grow and you have more staff, the processes change and things change, right? So it's different for whatever level you are at a rental company, and this is just what I've gathered through what I've had to do so far.